Member Friend,
Here.
Member Drobish,
Here.
Member Lowry.
Here.
The next item is the consent calendar, and there's the adoption of the agenda and adoption of minutes for the meeting of August 20th. We can do with those concurrent if unless someone wants to pull something off. Do I have a motion?
I move to adopt the agenda and the minutes of August 20th, 2013.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good.
Abstain. I was not here for August 20.
Okay. Items of interest to the public. I'm not going to read this whole paragraph, but if anybody has a subject they'd like to talk to us about, that would be a subject that the Planning Commission would be interested in, or the kind of subject that we would perhaps take action on at some point. Does anybody have any comments, public comments? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. We'll go on to the first item of business, and that's the 263 Main Street site plan review. And I assume that there's a staff report.
Mr. Chairman, prior to the introduction of the staff report, I have to recuse myself for the record. So I will adjourn to the recusal room.
Okay.
For the record, what is the basis of your recruit?
Potential business conflict. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is this your report, Andrew? or-
Yes, it is. I was just taking a note there
That's
regarding
okay.
the recusal.
That's okay.
Yes, the development project tonight for you is a site plan review, and that's number 2013-03. The applicant is David Becker. He represents the ownership group for 263 Main Street, which is in downtown Placerville. The project before you is a request to install an awning along the building's east elevation or Center Street elevation of the building, as well as install a mural area where it is yet to be defined as to what exactly will be painted there, but Mr. Becker will be, I'm sure, describing that process before you in a moment. But the request before you tonight would be a modification to the exterior of this building. And because this building is listed in our city's historic resource inventory, if there are any proposed modifications to the exterior of the building that are visible from the street, they must come before you as a site plan review action, and the Planning Commission would make a determination for its consistency with city code, Site Plan Review Ordinance 1049, the consistency with the Secretary of Interior standards and guidelines for rehabilitation of historic buildings, as well as the city's development guide. Staff has reviewed the application. Well, first, let me talk a little bit about the scope of the mural and the awning. The mural space is proposed to be 20 feet in width and 10 feet in height. And once again, it would be placed on the Center Street side of the building. It would consist of a optional media. The applicant is requesting the ability to place the possibility of wood panels, metal panels, or even to stucco the exterior of the existing brick as the media for the mural itself. Mounting details of the mural panels have not been disclosed at this time. There is a condition of approval that information come back as a condition of approval from our building department. The awning is proposed to protect the mural and would be mounted above the mural to provide it some protection from weather. It is a black canvas fabric. Now behind you on the wall is a cutout of that particular fabric, as well as the color scheme proposed by Mr. Becker. It is, again, a canvas fabric. It would be stretched over a tubular steel frame, and that framework would be mounted by bolts and screws into the existing exterior finish of the building, and would be attached, once again, mounted at such a level that it would protect the awning itself, but not impede people who use the sidewalk on that side of the street. The awning would be slightly larger than the mural surface. It would be 22 feet in length, and would have a component, what's called loose valance, which is where the applicant is proposing to put the words Delfino Becker, which represents one of the businesses within the building. Staff has evaluated not only the request for the sign, the awning, and the mural, and found them to be consistent with the city's zoning code, the 1049 I mentioned earlier, the site plan review, consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards, as well as the city's development guide. The general plan does expressly encourage the placement of public art, and specifically in the downtown area. This request would certainly provide that aspect. It would certainly provide a beautification of a wallscape that is really predominantly brick. Staff is encouraged by the proposal tonight. The Planning Commission is advised from our Historical Advisory Committee to also approve the request as submitted. They did provide 2 additional conditions for the Commission's consideration. Those are described on page 6 of the staff report. Also on page 6 is a list of recommended conditions from our building department, the engineering division, and some general conditions that are pretty standard after you've read them, as well as 2 additional, well, maybe that's three additional conditions that are kind of unique to this project in particular. There are 2 illegal signs on the premises, and staff has described those in the staff report and conditioned their removal. The other condition of note is the mural. To be truly a mural, it cannot identify a business, an entity, an occupancy, or premises, and I do not believe that's the intent of Mr. Becker and his mural concept, is to provide truly an artwork to be presented to the public. So that concludes my staff report. Mr. Becker is in the audience this evening. Staff enthusiastically supports the project, as well as does the Historical Advisory Committee, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions for Andrew?
Is staff confident on the depth of the awning to not be struck by trucks coming through the alley?
Yes, due to its projection, I believe there's still over 12 inches of space between the edge of the awning and the back of the curb. Right. And its height should also eliminate any kind of, are you worried about side view mirrors and things like that from trucks? Right.
Crown of the road.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that it? We'll open the public hearing. We'll ask Mr. Becker to come up and tell us about the project, and we might have some questions for you.
Great, thank you very much. My name is David Becker. I'm in that building, 63 Main. I've been impressed by the vanilla, bland.
Oh, excuse me. That's my fault.
Oh, it is. Just
Okay.
get a little closer.
Okay. The reason for this request is twofold. I wanted a chance to brand the building. As you know, it contains several different businesses. I have a music store on the first floor and the law office upstairs. But the building itself has never really been branded, and I've kicked around lots of ideas, but a recent real estate company merger between myself and Margot Delfino gave me the opportunity to think about branding the building, Delfino Becker. How best to brand it was something I was thinking of, but I was impressed with that east wall being so bland and facing what's going to be a significant upgrade to Main Street in the new construction there at the opposite corner. I felt this was a good opportunity to get a win-win for the city and myself. I thought branding the building would be good for me, and I thought providing a public art location would be good for the community. It's one of those walls that you hit as soon as you turn right on Center Street for the freeway. And right now it's been bland for years. So I want to go bland to bang with a public art project. The awning, as I've said, provides two purposes. One, it will protect the mural, it will frame the mural, but it also brands the building. I want to submit for your consideration the concept of not tying the two together in time, and here's why. One of the conditions, number 5, says that you cannot have the awning installed within 60 days also installing the mural. The reason I request that you drop that tie-in in terms of time is this. I think it's important to create a vacuum for the mural by holding an empty frame against that building and say, please come. Having a temporary sign that says, mural competition underway, something to that effect, www.muralonmainstreet.com. A mural competition is not something that can be done in a month or 2 or 3, actually. It's much more like 10 to 12 months. We have to advertise and generate interest among potential artists. That's going to take a few months. We have to solicit their rough sketches, and that's all we'll be able to get from them at that early in the competition. Evaluate the sketches, get a list of finalists, get prototypes prepared or a better fine art depiction of what they propose. And as you can already hear in the background, the Arts Council and PDA are participating in the review of this. This is going to take some time. Once the finalists are reviewed, they come back to you, actually. So I anticipate some 3 or 4 or 5 ideas coming to the Historical Commission as well as yourselves, because one of the conditions here says that the mural content itself must be reviewed and approved by you. So this is not something we're just turning over to an artistic event, although admittedly that would have been my preference. So the public agencies will then review and approve the content of the mural, and only then will we make the final selection, and then we will be dependent upon weather, materials, availability of the mural list. And so this is going to take, as you can imagine, I think a fair budget is 12 to 18 months. The reason I want to ask you to allow me to put the banner up is, A, it accomplishes the awning now. It creates a frame and a space so that I don't have to create an image or an idea of what the muralist is going to be looking at. I can actually take a snapshot of the awning frame for the mural, and they can get a real sense of idea and light and all the rest and the different surface potentials. So I ask you to not make me delay the installation of the awning until we have a decision on the mural list. I admit and agree that that gives me a benefit up front that the city doesn't get a concomitant benefit from. Until the mural's up, the city doesn't really benefit. But I would submit to you that public art is often commercially sponsored. And I ask for that commercial concession so that I can justify in this year this expense of almost $5,000 just for the awning. In exchange, put into next year the financial obligation it's going to take from me to fund the mural itself. So I'm happy to respond with any questions. I do not have any idea about the content or medium that the mural will take shape. I have seen I've been studying this a lot the last year, and there are a lot of murals that come from the artist's location already on metal panels or on wood panels, and they ship to the site. It's the old days of scaffolding up and having a muralist with his cans hanging from the scaffolding is not likely to occur. I don't want, as you can imagine, we'd have to come back and back again for subtle modifications if the selected muralist wants to paint on stucco, for example, which is actually a pretty common medium. Or the muralist is in Austria and wants to do panels and ship them. I don't know. So I'm not asking for much in terms of shots in the dark or darts on a dartboard about the content of the mural. We will bring that back to you, and you'll actually play a big role in selecting the finalist. But I would like you to free me up to get the awning up while I create this vacuum of requests for public art submissions. Any questions?
Something you mentioned about the lighting. Do you have any proposed lighting within the awnings structure for downlighting on the mural, and is that allowed under city code?
I do not include that as a part of the proposal. I do suspect that someday we might want to light it, but that would be the subject of a whole new request. We'd need a new permit. It would change the viewscape, if you will, of the outside of a historical building, and so it would be submitted as an independent request. If a muralist comes and says, you know, this mural is going to be fine during the day, but it would be killer at night if it were lighted in a particular way, that's a request we would independently submit. There is merit to that because developing a nightscape in the city of Placerville is a very good goal, in my opinion. And so lighting public art is a very good way to do that and encourage it, but it would become the part of a subsequent application.
That street is quite dark, as you know, so absolutely.
You mentioned how the old method of a muralist putting up a scaffolding and hanging paint cans on and being there for weeks if it required it has been supplanted by muralists doing things on panels and then installing the panels. That sounds like a great idea to me. I imagine there are technical solutions, hard points or something that could be a matrix of hard points that could give you some flexibility in the size of the panel size and what have you, and will allow a fairly rapid change out of panels over time. I raise that for the sensitivity to Z-Pies, people walking on that side of the sidewalk. I think it'd be a burden on that restaurant to have that sidewalk blocked for lengthy periods of time. So that then brings me to the discussion of stuccoing the exterior of the wall. Then that implies to me that we're back to someone painting a mural directly on the stucco surface. So this is just a suggestion, is if consider finding a technical solution of a matrix of hard points so that you can mount those panels without blocking the sidewalk for weeks at a time.
Yeah, it's a great idea because you're right, scaffolding, we wouldn't be able to do the San Francisco solution of offsetting our scaffolding, right? And we will have a chance to address that because we'll have finalists, one of whom may want to stucco and paint, two others may want a off-site panel, and so we'll put that into our evaluation when we decide on finalists together.
And I don't mean to intend to prevent people who prefer to work, stucco or fresco or what have you. It seems to me, though, that you could provide that substrate in a single or series of panels attached to hard points.
Right. Good point.
I assume I'm right. This mural is going to be changed from time to time, so it's not going to be there, paint one or whatever, and then it's there forever.
We don't know. If we catch a Michelangelo, it's going to be there a while. If we catch not so Michelangelo, we're going to encourage rebirthing that mural. Okay. But right now, I can't tell you whether that mural is going to be there 18 months or 18 years.
But the option is there, so it can be changed from time to time. That's
Absolutely.
Your request, I would think. I can wait, I guess, until it comes back to the commission, but I'm going to ask a question about one of the conditions that I'm curious about and maybe even a little troubled. I wonder why it has to come back to the Historic committee or the planning commission as far as content. I don't think that we need to be judges of art or censoring something that we don't like or this or that. And I would think personally that you, the building owner, ought to be able to, pick the content and say, this is what we're going to do. I object to that unless there's a really strong reason for that. But I don't think that's our place to get involved in that. Maybe a comment from Pierre or Andrew or,
No, in general, I think I agree with that statement. That was a recommended condition by our Historical Advisory Committee. I don't think they were necessarily concerned about a wild art concept on the wall. I think they were, because this was a relatively new process for them. Perhaps it's just taking baby steps instead of a giant step. But again, unfortunately, we don't have no one here to comment on that. And they really didn't go into much detail about that particular condition, if I recall, Mr. Becker. It was.
Well, the sense was, and it's a natural human nature that, God, what if a worry that if it were offensive, advertising some
can get it back.
Nevada-based
Right.
business, and how we can unwind that impact on our community. They're worried about that. And, of course, government being responsible for its outcome, they'd be the targets of criticism if they'd approved a project carte blanche. On the other hand, is good government promoted by excessive control and content and regulation? And so it's a struggle between those two principles of thought. I, for one, believe that I paid $1 million for this building. I'm not going to screw it up. So should we, as government, allow our property owners to make these content choices? Tough call. You obviously know my feeling on it. But.
I think, Vice Chair Russell, that perhaps not solution, but a response to that would be inviting Mr. Becker, and when they do come up with a finalist, to come back before us just to say, we intend to do this, and this is the concept, and not necessarily to ask for permission, but more just to express what it is, and as more of an invitation to, hey, watch it be developed or watch it be constructed. I don't know if that's really a condition, more of just a comment, and I don't know how Mr. Becker feels about that, but do you understand what I'm?
I certainly do understand, and it's sort of halfway toward, and splitting the baby is not always the just solution. But I think my original concept was that I would employ the services of the Arts Council and reach out to PDA. I want it to be a win-win for everybody. And I don't know how you solve this conundrum. I always fall in these conundrums to independence and self-regulation. So that's where I fall on it.
I think my feelings is if you work with PDA, and I'm part of that, or the Arts Council, I think that process will guarantee that we're not going to get something there that's offensive or something like that. I just don't think that the city government has a role in that to be approving or disapproving of what you want to put on your building. I really don't.
I have to say I agree. The idea of government being in any way involved in anything that even smells like prior restraint, I think, is a loser for everybody concerned.
If you let's have any more questions from Mr. Becker, we can close the hearing and then we can have our discussion up here amongst ourselves. So, thank you.
Thank you.
We might, don't go away because something might come up that. Okay, go ahead and George. Excuse me. Anybody else like to speak to this this topic? Okay. Yeah, see. Whatever you want. if you have any comments about how you think a mural would fit into the downtown, area, or maybe you're not familiar with this particular building or whatever, but if not, we're not gonna require you to stand up and talk. Okay, I'll bring it back to the commission for our comments and action.
I do have a few comments. I really do like the photo that was shown in there, and if it stays within that theme, that's going to be amazing for Placerville. I do agree that going through your Arts Council and your PDA is going to filter, and you'll get input on what the different murals will be. I didn't hear maybe I missed it. Is it going to change once a year? Is it going to change once a month? Anything about that? I would like to see the mural content changes come back to Historical Advisory Committee also just for a review, but I don't want that to involve, I don't believe there's fees involved going to the Historical Advisory Committee, is there? I don't want the applicant to have to be spending money to change his mural. Also, the illegal signs, the off-premise and such, I would like to see the language possibly changed from need to go within 10 days of this approval of the Planning Commission to something more general of illegal signs need to go within 10 days of this hearing unless appealed to City Council. That way they go regardless of the outcome. That's all.
Do we have any further comments or questions?
Well, I made my comment, about the issue of prior restraint. I'd like to see this process become, assuming that the model of involving the Arts Council and the Placerville Downtown Association, you certainly are capturing the involved stakeholders and getting a wide enough range of opinions to get something pretty normative put up there for public view. I'd like to see this become a self-sustaining, self-regulating process that once everybody understands or the stakeholders have decided what the right and left lanes are of acceptable design, I don't know that the city needs to be particularly involved in it on an ongoing basis. Again, because I don't see a role for the city in dictating content.
I do have a comment, unless you're not done.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think the city would intervene if the mural became an advertisement for a business on site. Then it becomes a sign. Then it is subject to our sign code. But the way the request is proposed, it is not a sign at this time. It is truly a mural, and therefore, I'm just pointing out that would be a step where the city may intervene regarding content. Do you understand the distinction?
Yes, certainly. And actually, that raises for me the issue of who, there needs to be an entity certain, in my opinion, responsible for the care and maintenance of the appearance of the mural. I even hate to raise the issue, but we live in an age of miscreants with spray paint cans, and if it is defaced in any way, we need some assurance that it will be brought back to presentable condition in short order. The last thing we want is, we spend a lot of money painting out tagging as it is.
I had the same thought about the graffiti, and that would be horrible, but it happens. So what kind of language could we, is that something to condition, or is that already something in code? I believe I've seen something where a business owner is required to clean up graffiti within X amount of days or something.
Yeah, the city has an existing ordinance that deals with that kind of vandalism, graffiti. So the property owner is required upon notification to clean up the graffiti, remove the graffiti within, and I can't recall the time period, but that would cover any graffiti.
Maybe take from, race cars use release film on their windshields when they get dirty. Maybe you could, if it was a metal medium, you could put that over it and you go out there in the morning and, yeah, good try. Okay, that's all.
Okay, I want one more comment about the content. It was suggested that if and when you change your mural, that it would come back to the architectural or historic committee or whatever. I wouldn't even support that. I think their role is to determine whether a mural is appropriate on a building, a historic building or whatever, but not the content, anything to do with the content. You know, if it's a building that they can say, yes, it's okay, and there might be a case someplace in the town that they'd say, no, that's not appropriate for that building. It would detract from the building. But as far as being a judge as to anything to do with content, I wouldn't support that. And I think, hopefully, if there's a motion made, that it would include the deletion of condition number 4. And if there's a need, I think Pierre outlined pretty well that we have an ordinance that'll take care of the graffiti if it does happen, and unfortunately it might. I have some property downtown, and it's been tagged a couple times.
And if staff could further add to, I think as Mr. Painter pointed out, both recommended conditions of approval 4 and 5 were brought forth to you upon recommendation by the Historical Advisory Committee, but staff doesn't have an issue with both conditions 4 and 5 being deleted.
Okay. Well, I think you made a good point about, having the mural go up now, because it might take 10 months, 12 months before we get the mural up. I think the awning will show people that something is happening there, and it's and maybe a temporary sign that says, watch this space for the mural that's coming. So I would agree that both 4 and 5 could be deleted, yes.
Along the lines of that, how appropriate would it be if the initial mural and medium came back at least to Historical Advisory for consensus there? And if there is consensus, they would not have to come back to this body. They would have already gone through PDA, Arts Council, and if those groups find approval, at least for the initial, and then ongoing changes, I am assuming would go through PDA and the Arts Council and would not have to go back through government. It would go through the community for vetting.
Well, staff would add that I don't believe that the city would have the authority to compel the property owner to go to those bodies. I just point that out.
True.
So it'd be an option for strictly the property owner if he wishes to do that.
The medium would be under purview, correct? But the mural itself is exempt.
The mural, because it has the potential to alter the exterior of the building, it's subject to site plan review. The mural is exempt from the sign code if it does not represent an entity. Well, it's in the state. But I do want to add that there is a shelf life with all site plan reviews, and the request, site plan reviews, there's 18 months in which the improvements that are approved must be finished, or request for extensions. So I want to remind the commission of that, and perhaps 18 months is adequate time. It certainly meets the time frame that Mr. Becker was talking about. So it's not open-ended, so to speak. Meaning we wouldn't have not a mural, greater than 18 months unless he came back before you and requested an extension. I just throw that out as a reminder.
Something the applicant mentioned about the awning up, and then you have a space, and you're possibly advertising for a competition. Would staff think that that would be considered signage if it said www, what have you, and could they be given allowance for that time?
Well, it won't speak for Director Rivas, but I believe we could couch it, or believe it could be couched as this is the future space of a public artwork. And we will inform something to that effect. We will inform the public as to how to participate, who can be involved, that kind of thing, to get true community support for this. That would be something I think the city would support, provided that the sign is not the entirety of that side of the building, and it is kept at a scope and a scale that I think everybody could agree with. Do you agree, Director?
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Well, I think I've made my thoughts clear. I don't think that we need to get into any content, and the Historic Committee doesn't need to do that either. So I wouldn't support, keeping condition 4 or 5 at this point. So if perhaps someone could make a motion and
Well, I'd like to move that we accept the portions of the findings of fact as acceptable for our purposes. Likewise, with the conditions of approval, striking item 4 and item 5 in their entirety. What else do I need to say to make it official?
these folks down there can figure this out. They know what we're doing.
Does it,
It's captured.
okay, thank you.
Second.
You got the facts, the findings and the conditions. I think that's primarily it.
I'm sorry, Member Drobus, did you
I will
that?
second that motion.
We have a motion and a second, and we call for the vote.
Member Lowry,
Aye.
Member Drobus.
Aye.
Vice Chair Russell.
Aye. What was that business in Nevada you didn't want to ask?
Motion carries unanimously.
You got a problem with open pit mining or something?
Congratulations, Mr. Becker.
Okay. Can we get Mr. Friend back out here?
It's been decided that the murals are going to be created in the garage. In my
New business, commission workshop, City of Placerville Development Guide update, and I'll defer to staff to lead us in this.
Yeah, just a general, few words here. All of you, I believe, were present, although all of you were not necessarily members of the Planning Commission at the time, but I think all of you were present at a joint meeting with the Historical Advisory Committee, Planning Commission, and City Council. In fact, it was 1 year ago, 2 weeks from now, on, I think it was October 30th of last year, where we discussed things like the historic guidelines, the development guide, the Secretary of Interior standards, and the general consensus amongst all three groups was that the City of Placerville Development Guide needs some updating. And from staff's perspective, yes, that's true. There are some outdated references. I can also share with you that this document was prepared on an Apple IIe by a consultant that no longer has the electronic version of that document. So we couldn't reproduce the photos in here even if we wanted to. And looking at them, as you know, they're rather grainy anyway. And I know Director Rivas has volunteered to assist with the taking of new photos of representative examples of things in the document. So that's something that staff will certainly provide. We do have a typed copy of the text without the photos. That's something we can do and have done. In fact, when we meet again, and the request tonight is just to, not even a request, it's just to inform you all that we'd like to start the process of updating this document. And I think right now, I think just for the sake of discussion tonight, instead of trying to tackle it all at one meeting, kind of break it up. Break it up to reasonable parts of 2, 3, maybe 4 chapters. If you looked at them, some of them are only 1 page, 2 pages, so it's not a big undertaking. So if it would help the commission, we can certainly provide you with kind of a blank slate. Again, just the text as a starting point, where you all can come back to us. We'll tell you which chapters we may discuss next month, and you can follow up with us with some suggested changes. But there are some outdated references in the document. There's some things just that are no longer applicable. I know Director Rivas and I have talked about some of the appendices in the back and placing of application forms, which may or may not be what we really would like to see. Certainly the process is important, but I think the application forms, since those change periodically, then we have a static document, but with non-static applications, and that could confuse the public. So I think you've read the staff report. You kind of have an idea what we'd like to do. Again, this is a document that implements the general plan. The general concepts, in my opinion, are sound. I think they do represent the community design element of the general plan in terms of its goals and policies, but perhaps it needs to be tweaked a little bit. Most of you are aware that the document has been updated to the extent of the plant palette and the street tree plan, which went before the Planning Commission a few years back. I can share with you that I believe Director Rivas and I are going to ask the Community Pride organization that helped draft that plant palette to perhaps take another look, because they haven't looked at it in a few years. That kind of allows another body to kind of provide some input, which is good. This Thursday, I'm going to ask the Historical Advisory Committee to look at Chapter 4, which is the architectural guidelines. So it's not just this body. We're going to get some input from other folks, and certainly the public's welcome to attend our vast our public audience tonight. I'll stop talking if you've got any questions about really where we're going and what we'd like to do.
Sure.
Well, I can't resist offering technical solutions. So if you have the text of this document on plain typewritten pages, that sounds to me like it'd be an ideal candidate to be run through some optical character recognition software. So then you would have a soft copy of the document. Then it would turn it into a text file or a Word document or what have you. And it seems to me also that given the amount of time that's elapsed, the target for this document is going to be a server someplace, and embedded in the document are going to be hyperlinks to forms and processes and that sort of thing.
Absolutely, that could easily be done, obviously, yeah. Great comment. And I think we intended to do that, actually, yeah, to link, if someone wanted to know what the specific application was for a site plan review, like Mr. Becker, he or she could click that link and go to and start the process of at least filling out an application.
Yeah, we actually had a secretary type the entire document, so we have a Word version absent the photographs.
Oh, so then you do have a soft
Yeah,
copy?
We do have
Perhaps I wasn't
we do
clear.
have a Word
I'm sorry,
document,
yeah.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I could provide that as kind of a canvas to start with, if that's helpful for you all.
The commission members should already have a copy of our existing
I
document.
do, thanks, Mike.
Great, okay. And if you don't, let us know. We'll be happy to supply you with it.
On timeframe, how much heads up would we have what chapters we're going to tackle? Would it be the 72 hours? Would it be a week or two? Or would we have a rough sketch of we're just going to?
I think staff's thought was to have one meeting of the two that we are normally scheduled, your normal regular meetings, and I'm thinking just because of today's date, I'm thinking the second meeting in a month. If that's helpful for you all to know in advance, and we can let you know of what chapters from the first meeting of the month. We can let you know, hey, by the way, 2 weeks from now, we're going to be looking at chapters 4, 5, and 6, or 7, or maybe we'll jump around depending on the interest of the commission. So certainly, we can let you know But if you want right now, we could probably plan that out right now if you want. But I was thinking just starting from chapter 1 and moving on, tackling 3 to 4 per meeting. So that would imply that the second meeting in November, we would look at chapters 1, 2, 3, and possibly 4. So, or, certainly, go ahead.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pick up on Mr. Drobish's suggestion. I'd like to see a roadmap, and you've kind of already just kind of laid that out. I'd like to see a roadmap which would have chapters assigned to the specific meetings over the next couple of months. And I guess that's also subject to contingent upon us having a meeting, right? And is it possible then, with that much advance notice, that the chapters of consideration could also be put up on the website? And I guess where I'm going with this, is there a way to get more community involvement aside from just attending the meeting? I mean, would it be possible to put the documents up on the website and then allow people to comment on them? And the comments would be there as those public, right? There's nothing closed, so anybody going to the website could see the comments, the commissioners could see the comments, and it creates an avenue for the public to be engaged with, a fairly important document. And I realize that takes time and effort, but it may not be that difficult to set up. I defer to the technical expert at the other end of the dais here.
Well, our videographer is our IT director. He could
bring
maybe
him out
step
here and
around
ask
the
him,
corner.
he can
Mr.
comment
Oz
on,
come around the corner, maybe he can.
So I mean, it would be great if you know what you're going to be. If you could step to the podium, perhaps, Mr. Chairman, possible? Go to the podium, if you would. Well, if you could step to the podium, we'll ask, that way everyone can hear it. So the question is, with regards to the development guideline, we're going to be considering X number of chapters at prescribed meetings, right? And so we'll already know what we're going to talk about. So my question is, can we get the material up on the web? And I would think the answer to that question is fairly simple. That would be a yes. Get those up on the web. And then could we create a way for the public to provide comments? Like you go to any site that has an article, right, and there's comments.
Right.
So people can comment on that. And I'm not looking for a discussion, just simply post comments. And then we could look at it, and it would give the public an opportunity to comment. So
We do have a survey tool that we could provide a link on the website, and, you could come up with questions, or whoever could come up with the questions to fill in to the blanks, and there would be a link either on the commission's page or on our announcements on the front homepage. Click here to give your opinion about such and such project.
Okay, so as opposed to a survey tool, this would be like an opinion tool, so people could read the material, then they could simply comment on it.
Correct.
We could do that?
There's also Facebook page. We have a Facebook page, which we could use that as well.
Yes, the thing with the Facebook page, and just speaking off the top of my head, is that it becomes difficult to grab the comment specific to this,
Right.
because the Facebook page is going to have everything.
Yeah, the
so-
survey tool would be best for that.
Okay, so if
And it actually stores the comments and when
Excellent.
they were made and who made them.
excellent. So, Mr. Chairman, and to staff, if that's a possibility, and isn't it great expense, that something we can do, I think that might be of value.
Well, fortunately, the document's already up on the web, and it's been separated into chapters currently. There isn't this mechanism for the public to provide comments, but the groundwork's there is what I'm trying to say, and.
Sounds like we can add the comment piece, and you've already done it. That's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, the survey tool is pretty easy to use, so if you, maybe Andrew and I could get together and try to link them, the chapters to something you guys want.
I have.
Wait, don't leave. I have to thank you. When you click on the calendar and it brings up the date and what meetings are having on that date, now there's a link. and you can go
Oh, to the agenda?
straight to the agenda.
Yes. I'll take credit for that, but Erica came up with that idea. I got a shout out to her. Oh, maybe it was you. Okay, Michael, Andrew, Erica, George.
Y'all get the thank
We'll
you.
all take
There's
credit.
just so much talent to go around.
All right, thank you.
Was there a question, George, for?
I just had another comment after Mr. Russell.
No, I'm done.
One comment, if I may, from staff. I just want to make it, I just want to express to the commission that what staff is trying to do here is not propose a comprehensive update to the development guidelines, but mainly staff has felt that it's a little bit outdated. We want to go through and we'll provide an underlined strikeout version, basically updating the document. Nothing comprehensive, no substantive changes to what the design guides are. And so, we want to work with the commission in doing that. If any commission members or if the commission as a whole feels that there's some component where we need to spend a little bit more time on fixing or modifying or changing, we certainly want to do that. But keep in mind that, we're very limited budget. There isn't any budget set aside to do this. It's just sort of it's more of a cleanup, and I want to couch it that way so that, we don't have a situation where this becomes a much larger project than was originally intended.
So we'll keep Pandora's box closed.
But I mean, granted, if the
Sure.
commission member sees something in a particular chapter, you know what, that's not something that's working for the city of Placerville, let us know. We'll certainly attempt to fix that. But for the most part, what staff will be providing you are just an underlined strikeout of basically updating or correcting anything that sort of needs to be done to the document. Nothing comprehensive.
Scope
No
is fairly
dramatic
limited.
changes. It's very limited.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Pierre.
I will add to that, and it's stated in the staff report that ultimately, city council is going to make the determination on any amendments to this document. They did adopt it back in 1993. They're the responsible party to actually see but to if it is changed, that it needs to go through them, and that was consistent with what we did with the plant palette and the tree planting plan also went to them. So I just want to reiterate that for the record.
So what occurs to me is that whatever we decide to do, before we push it out for comments down to the nap of the earth level from the public, I'd prefer that the Planning Commission and staff iterate completely through it once at the 30,000 foot level. I say that for a couple of reasons. Nobody in this room has any particular ownership of this document, and I don't want to spend a lot of time answering questions about comments to something that we haven't had a chance to at least review in general. I also think that there's a good case to be made for reviewing it at a high level, so that if it does turn out that it does need a lot of detail level work, then council can decide whether or not they want to find the funding to staff it out to do it right. But I'd like to. My experience when you get into these collaborative editing things, the number of collaborators rises linearly, and the number of edits rises exponentially. So I think we'd have better control over it if we, at least, pulled the fly specs out first.
So if I can summarize that, it sounds to me you'd like to
Please help
see a final draft once it's been reviewed for all the chapters, then it would go for a public comment. Is that kind of what I
Or to city council with our evaluation of the acuity level of the problems with the documents.
Go ahead.
I could see that too, just to not get bogged down. We go through it, then we would have a public hearing on our proposed changes here,
in its entirety?
and then send it off to council. So, and thank you, staff, for offering to break this down into manageable bites. That's very nice. And I suppose that
We appreciate your time as well.
this whole process is basically we're saving money by not buying outside consultants. We're doing it in-house.
You are consulting.
Saving money.
I'd like to ask a follow-up question based on the comments from my fellow commissioners. So We are nonetheless going to be reviewing specific chapters at each of our meetings. That process has already been laid out by staff. Right, so and
Recommended,
those are going
yeah.
to be public hearings. So just to make sure I'm clear, is that the suggestion that we're going to preclude any public comment on those with the exception of those people that physically attend the meeting here? Are we going to preclude them an opportunity to provide comment? If the answer is yes, I would say I think that's unfortunate. If the answer is no, then they'll still be able to simply put their comments up that we can choose to consider or not. So I just want to make sure I was clear on that. As
question to
opposed-
staff?
Well, and my commissioners too, to understand where they were coming from, to make sure that we're not limiting the public input to just the final public hearing, which is kind of what I
No,
thought might be happening.
My staff report's pretty clear. We want to encourage public participation in all facets of this, whether it's through the Survey Monkey process or attending the individual meetings if they've got an interest about a particular chapter. Come on down, and certainly you guys want to hear what they have to say. Yeah.
No,
Just
I
wanna encourage
definitely want to encourage as much participation as possible, and I was hoping that when we do have a hearing on chapters 4 through 7, the discussion is about 4 through 7.
And my only point,
Total
Mike, is
concurrence.
that if I'm putting it out there, I'm implying some ownership, and I'm not prepared to do that with this document in its current state. So, I mean, I'm happy to have people ask questions, but I would, if I were have to rack and stack my sequence of work, it would be to review this current document, get something out that incorporates common sense updates, and then review the comments to see if they're applicable to the revised document. That's all.
Except that the process is going to be a chapter-by-chapter review essentially, right? And we're going to be taking input on each of those pieces, right? So we're not going to have a comprehensive document all at once. We're going to review, for example, next meeting, we may review chapters 1 through 4, right?
Right.
So we'll see staff's recommendations for the updates, minor in scope, we agree with that. But then at that time, the public will have an opportunity to comment on what staff is proposing for the revisions, right? And we'll have to consider those as part of the public hearing. And I'm simply suggesting that for folks that can't make the meeting, they would have the opportunity to send in their comments, which, we can do whatever we want with them. It's just they have the opportunity to comment on them.
I think once they're in the record, we're going to have to address them at a public hearing. That's my sense. But we'll see.
Okay, with all this electronic folderol, that's a good word, and we might even get help from NSA,
We already have.
Okay, moving on, item 9, matters from the commissioners and staff. Staff, we can let you go first.
Yeah, I've been away on vacation in the early part of September, and Director Rivas did present and advise the city council that our sign for Preserve America did come in. I don't think it's been determined yet as to where that sign is going to be placed, and but maybe it has, and I just am not aware of that. So look to see that being installed sometime soon. What's coming up on council agenda?
We're proposing 3 items for the October 22nd city council agenda. And one, we're going to come back to the council with a status report on the illegal abandoned sign abatement program. I think the last time that item was brought to the council was back on March 27th of 2012. So we've updated, at least updated that sign list of the outstanding illegal signs, and we'll report that to the council. A second item is we're proposing to bring to the council a consultant services agreement contract with PMC to prepare an environmental impact report for the Clay Street realignment bridge replacement project. And then a third item, let's see, there was a third item in there. What was it?
While he's thinking about that, I will, I'll jump in, and we do have a project at least one for the first meeting in November. And it's a request from Marshall Hospital or Marshall Medical Center. They wish to install PV panels within, or photovoltaic panels, within their parking lot, on one of their parking lots up at the hospital. And so that's an amendment to the site plan that was approved, the landscaping, parking, what have you. So that's clearly a major change to that request from a few years ago. So that'll come back before you. And that's all I have at the moment. Now I'll turn it back over.
Yes, the third item that staff will give an update to the council, we will be reviewing with the council the October 9th, 2013 comments received from the Department of Housing and Community Development on the draft housing element.
I've got one more if you're interested. Although it didn't come before you, there's a gentleman by the name of Stan Morris who is involved with the museum downtown. He lives at the Carey House, and he's involved with a woman by the name of Dee Owens who prepared a mapping project for all the monuments and plaques in town. They have nearly finished that, and they have a rollout example of it, which I've asked our city manager permission to put it on the main website, so as a link. And there's associated with that is a Google Map component where you can actually see, from a satellite view where these things are, and then zoom in on them. So that's exciting. And also, Mr. Morris is involved with a video production of historic sites downtown. I believe I don't have the time, but they are planning on one of their shoots of their docents who do the tours. That's what they'll be filming. And one of the filming days will be the 18th, and I believe it's either 11 o'clock or noon on a Saturday. So, you can certainly go watch the production, and if you wish, that film or video will eventually be completed, and they propose to come back to our historical advisory committee and give an update as to maybe even a screening of that. And then I do anticipate that they're going to request, that group is going to request that it be linked also to the city's website, which I don't think the city has any issues with that. So I throw that out there as also for just public information.
Any comments from the commission? Nope. Okay. We'll adjourn to the November 5th meeting.